Welcome back to Practice Underwater. This is part 2 of our segment looking forward to 2021. How's it going, Matt?
Merry Christmas, George. All right. We made it.
We
Christmas.
made it to Christmas. I can't
Yes.
believe
We're
we are
almost
recording
there.
this on not Christmas.
Mm-mm.
So it takes some of the joy out of Christmas for me.
Well, the hardcore listeners listening on Christmas Day. How many do you think are doing that?
Like 5.
But remember, this is a unique Christmas this year where a lot of people probably aren't seeing family. There may be, where they live currently. And so if you are one of those, Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
And if you're driving to work on the 28th, when you'll most likely be listening to this episode, I hope you had a nice Christmas. Good, jeez, Matt. So Merry Christmas to those of you who are listening. Comment on the Shared Practices Facebook group saying listening on Christmas would be nice so that we know that this is what you're referring to. It'll be an inside joke. I know Aaron, Peyton, and Alex Sharp are listening.
Yes.
So those are the 3 that are pretty much. Aaron actually is probably the most day of listener that I know of.
It's always, we get a text, 7 a.m., Practice Underwater guests said their name at this minute.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm like,
nice catch.
Thanks, Aaron. Forgot to bleep out Matt at this minute.
I should not be bleeped out at all. Let's just make that clear.
No, we have to keep our rating.
Oh, very important. Very important.
Yeah, we cannot be explicitly rated.
No, we cannot.
We cannot.
Absolutely not.
Under no circumstances.
No circumstances.
All of the explicit ratings are saved for Dental Friends with Benefits.
Which I'm on.
2 episodes ago on Dental Friends with Benefits, Matt was on.
George texts me before we record and says, we're going to be taking shots on the episode. So you'll know if we actually did that or not. I can't imagine I did it.
What?
I'm being serious. I am not a shot guy.
Okay, well, the reason why we're doing it with you is because we feel like you need a lot of alcohol to be entertaining.
What? Are you kidding?
I am not.
I'm actually appalled. Like, I am more entertaining in a riff conversation than you are.
False.
Okay. Please give me some feedback, listeners, as far as my episode on Dental Friends with Benefits. Please go listen to that one and tell me how much more entertaining I am than George.
All right. Well, don't worry. That'll be a good episode. I got some stuff waiting for him too. So
all right, good.
It'll be a good time. So transitioning into the purpose for this episode, it's really talk about 2021. And we kind of alluded to it. I mean, I just talked about 2021 for my practice last week, but I guess I can kind of, reiterate that. But are there anything, I think we both did that for our practice, right? You mentioned your 2021 goals as well.
I got into most of them, but we want to share the other part of it.
Okay. So Matt, do you want to get started?
No, you get started and then it'll make more sense. My thing.
Okay. So I talk about my practice. So my practice, I think at this point, we kind of left it off with a stable period. And for a practice of mine to be stable, that means I cannot be very involved. And so we alluded to that. I'm probably going to go in two every other week into the practice, see patients clinically, and then for that half day that I do. And then at this point, we're thinking about what's next for shared practices or what's next for us personally. And so we are opening up a center for my practice in sometime in mid 2022, something like that, depending on construction timelines and permitting in Peoria, which I have no idea how that's going to go. So, we're opening up a headquarters there. And so in the meantime, my practice, we just kind of work on our systems in place and get things going and keep it profitable until then. But in the meantime, Matt and I are wanting to start playing the game of multiple locations. So is that the thing that you wanted me to talk about?
Yeah. And talk about how that idea kind of was born in you.
Oh, man. So I have publicly picked it up and put it down and picked it up and put it down like 5 or 6 times. And I have attempted to purchase a second practice, I think 4 times in my career. So this is not something that I've been able to successfully put down. And, what I realized is, so I went to, I guess I got to take a step back. So yeah, the last time we heard me talk about this on air, I said I put it down because I wanted to focus on shared practices. And then in shared practice, we've developed a lot of things. And I was really, I got to watch the model of multiple locations. And there's so many things about it that I just don't like the way it's done. And one of my biggest gripes is the lack of single site performance. So a lot of these groups, and this is getting better in the industry. The industry is starting to crack down on this, thank goodness. But a lot of these groups are owning multiple locations and just kind of like stringing them together and not really doing anything to improve them. And that's not necessarily my favorite thing. And then the other thing is, I think everyone is just doing it for a quick cash grab, and that's with like private equity or selling out to someone else. And that's not something I ever wanted to do either. So I think those two things about this industry I really don't like.
And touch on the funding aspect, how they've kind of improved that as far as like when you can get lending for future practices that isn't based off how many offices you just bought. It's actually based on the performance of the offices. You explained this to me weeks ago.
Yeah. So, it's when you lending is changing in this industry a lot, and so you can essentially I see what you're saying. So if you have like 4 locations, 4 or less, then you're getting funding based on each individual location. And then once you grow past that, they start doing what they call global lending. So they look at your entire portfolio and they see, can your entire portfolio support this new addition? And so the rate at which you can get lending is changing. And so the industry is essentially opening itself up for, entrepreneurial dentists to do this more. And again, this isn't something that, it's something that we want to experiment in. And the reason we want to experiment it in is because we want to figure out, is this something we can do well or not? And we want to essentially lead that charge and see, is this something that can be done the right way, in a way that we believe in, that's in the best interest of patients, associate dentists, potentially partner dentists, and ourselves. Is this something that's long-term, sustainable, and profitable? That's what we're looking to see.
Yeah, and touch on the associate aspect of this. How do you see our DSO being different than the way a typical DSO might operate?
Yeah, so you use the word DSO, so I'm going to take a step back.
Oh, sorry.
So let me take a step back. Matt and I are going to start a group of GP offices in Phoenix, with Suzanne, our director of coaching. So the 3 of us together will own an entity that's called a DSO, and then that will own other practices underneath it. And that's our way of sort of splitting ownership at one level. And then if we wanted to ever give a dentist equity, like a long-term dentist equity at a specific office, we can do that without changing our arrangement between the 3 of us. So that's sort of what the DSO structure is. And, we're not committing to creating a giant DSO or anything like that. What we're really committing to is in Phoenix, trying to build a string of GP offices to see if our principles and everything we believe in can be translated to, more than just the one office that I have. Can we take the things that we do well? Can we take the things we believe in? Can we take the culture that we want for team members? Can we take the experience we want for patients? Can we take all of those things? And then the experience as an associate, like I think people understand how terrible it is to be an associate dentist. To offer a dentist that doesn't want to be an owner the opportunity to make, good money, like 300 grand a year while not having the ownership, stuff, like that's an attractive position for the right dentist. And so I think on a lot of levels, we're not sure if we can do it or not. We obviously feel confident, or else we wouldn't be doing it. But at the same time, we would like to prove a concept that we can do it. And I think partnership opportunities on the single site level is probably the most stable model. And, we don't want to sell out. So I think for us, it just makes a lot of sense to stabilize good dentists at good locations and keep moving on. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So switching back to how this fits in my plans and world, this was kind of a big shift for me because as I stepped away clinically from my practice, I really enjoyed still running it, but I kind of see a future in this group of practices as more of my day to day. So that is my tentative plan to look to move from the practice. So if you are listening and you may be interested.
Yeah, let's can we get more granular with that, or do you want to just leave it that vague?
You can get as granular as you want. I'm an open book.
So we're opening our headquarters in the middle of 2022. And so at that time, we're going to be hosting in-person CE in Phoenix. We're going to have a location, and the headquarters is going to be like a seminar space and a lot of shared practices. Ever since November of 19, every new member of our team we've added has been in Phoenix. And we're committed to growing a Phoenix-based company. And so that will be our headquarters. And so as we grow, it just makes sense that Matt and I operate in the same, Matt and I are the more involved in the day-to-day operations of shared practices. And so naturally, it would make sense that we're both A in the same location and B in the location of our headquarters. And so Matt moving to Phoenix was sort of something that we had been talking about for a long time. And the idea of us having, him having an income equivalent to what he's making in his current office in Phoenix is a thing that we'd like to set up over the next 18 months so that by the time he moves, it's in place. So that explains where I think does that a good explanation, Matt, do you think?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So, sometime in the, at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, Matt's hoping to make the transition out of his current practice and put it for sale and then come over here to Arizona. So if you're listening
and
you're in New York City,
Matt at SharePraxis, please.
.com.
Even if you maybe you're not sure this would be for you, you just want to talk, please reach out.
Yeah. Be nice to save a broker fee there. So that's personally what we're up to in 2021. And so I think for both of our individual practices, it's about keeping them stable and profitable and just kind of keeping things going and growing slowly without us there on the day-to-day. And then it's really about growing our common group. I think our private practice endeavors are going to be, me, Matt, and Suzanne. And the way a lot of this works is, I think my strength is deal finding, deal negotiating, talking to sellers. Matt's strength is very much operationally, expenses, services, all of the day-to-day stuff. And then, Suzanne as our coaching department. And this is, I think, the big shift for me was this time we have a coaching department with coaches that are essentially, trained to train office managers. Like that's their job in our coaching department. So why are we not using that asset on our own practices? So that's what we tend to do. And we hope to use our coaches, knowledge and resources to help us manage the day-to-day training of teams and hiring, firing, and all the things we need to do on the single office level. And so, at this point, we're set up nicely to experiment here. And I really want to call this an experimentation because we believe in our philosophy wholeheartedly. We believe in our coaching department wholeheartedly, and we're doubling down on both of those things by trying to own the assets that we are coaching in. And grow them, because I think when you see a 9 months of a client in our coaching department, like the amount of growth that they obtain is insane. And like to do that on practices you own, where maybe a lot of the reasons why some clients aren't growing, you can kind of skirt. And it feels like a no-brainer, to be honest.
Yeah, we kind of see this as like the biggest game in dentistry. And if we have these grand aspirations and we believe so strongly in our philosophy and have seen it work so well with many of our clients, why not make this attempt, right?
Yeah.
Like it would be a disservice to us and I think our audience too, to not have the people they go to listen to about practice management use that at their own practice in several locations.
And I think we can both admit that if it was up to us, we would rather dentistry stay in the cottage industry that it has been.
Yep.
Where it's private practice owned. But I think we've both had, and I think we've, we're not speaking for Richard here. This is Matt and I, yes. That we've had a, realization that regardless of what is happening, we can't stop it. And we would like to stop it if there was a way we felt we could, but we are two guys on a podcast and there are forces of private equity and amounts of money and Wall Street and, DSOs and insurance companies and all these things happening that are outside of our control. And so rather than try to, fight a fight that's likely a losing battle, we thought, well, if everyone is doing this, or if majority of people are doing this, or if this is where things are going, why not us set the example for how we feel it should be done the right way, with ethics in mind and creating a lasting organization that does not have to be sold because it's too hard to run or too unstable.
And trust us when we say that we tried and thought of many different avenues to fight this, really. Before we kind of realized that it is an unstoppable force in this industry, for better or worse, that let's try to optimize that. Let's try to improve on the model ourselves and maybe encourage others to follow a similar model, depending on how it goes. But I want to say one more thing about my practice, and then I'll leave that aside. We'll move on to share practices things. I feel like this move too, again, is in the best interest of my practice. Like it can now have someone who is fully 100% committed to being there and running a solo or a group office, whatever path they choose. It's kind of both available at the practice. I just think it's in the best interest of the staff that's there, the patients, and that's really part of the motivation for this as well. Like,
Well,
I can't be this half in, half out with shared practices becoming so much more of a focus.
Well, and I think the other thing is, you're positioned your practice. So we talked about it before, but Matt's practice is undergoing a solo to group transition. And so really, I mean, I would think the straightforward path for the buyer is to complete the transition into full group, where there are now 2 full-time dentists at that practice, or like a 3-day week and a full-time associate type situation doing over 2 million. Like, that's a very desirable practice that, that's in the best interest of everyone, that somebody who appreciates that is
Right.
the one that owns it, as opposed to somebody who just kind of has it because they bought it in the first place and now they want to do something else.
All right. I just need to make that point so we
Yeah,
can continue.
no, I think it's good, and I think we're ready to move on from our multiple practice, thing. And again, this is something that we're not going to talk about a whole lot on air. I think we just want you guys to know that we're doing. I mean, we don't even need you guys to know we're doing it, to be honest. But I think it just, I think it's just important that it's part of our story that we are trying this, and it is very much an experiment. But I mean, we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't believe that we could do it. So,
For sure.
all that stuff being said, that's what's coming. But I think the more relevant thing is, I think we realized this is part of like me having a lot more time and focusing on shared practice. I think one of the initial things that came from this was, I think for the first time I thought about our business differently. And I realized that our audience has dental students, it has associate dentists, it has practice owners. And right now, back in August, the only products and services we had catered to were owner dentists. And we were neglecting like likely 2/3 of our audience.
Yeah,
And
we only had the pre-owner coaching, and that only fit because it had a start and end date for someone in the exact right position of their being an associate. Like, I'm looking for practice now. This program is about to start. That's all we had for them.
yeah. And so, I think we had to go back to the drawing board and say, look, you know what? We don't want people to have to wait until they're ready to start benefiting from all the stuff that we offer. Like, we would like wherever people are at in their lives and whatever they can afford, to us to have an option for them. And so this led to a shift in what we call, shared practice proper. Like the shared practice today, so in January, when this probably is already released, right? You guys are doing episodes in December launching this, the student and pre-owner masterminds.
Yep, that'll be already out.
Yeah. So for dental students now, we'll have mastermind community for them. And then for associate dentists, we have a mastermind community for them. And then we already offer buyer's representation services. For dentists, we offer due diligence services. But we're going to be expanding upon that department as well next year. And so the idea is that, while we do a lot for owners and we're doing a lot of amazing things for owners, I think we understand and we've gone back and realized that so much of our audience is still pre-ownership, that we also need to offer things for them. And so, and then upcoming, the future date will be an online academy as well for each of those subsets of people.
Yeah, I mean, this is a company, and like, our mission is to serve our audience. It really is. Like, we constantly think of what would we have liked to have at each point in the dental student to owner path as an offering, and like what wasn't available for us that we want available for the people who are in those shoes. And that's the kind of lens we create all of these offerings, and have done it in a way that, like George says, there's an offering for everyone and it's affordable. I think that's the most important part. Like, I was a broke associate.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, we want to make it affordable for everyone, really.
And, it's like, for us, I think what Matt said is really important. One of our most motivating factors is to build the thing that we needed back when we needed it. And I think that's one of and I think for us and for me personally, I think there are companies in dentistry that are about people, like a person who is really intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I'm really proud about at Shared Practices is, yes, most likely it has, you would associate me with Shared Practices, but at the same time, we also have empowered a lot of people that we think are really intelligent to take a leadership role, whether that be Alex Sharp, Richard, me, you, Tyler, Tolbert, Suzanne. We've empowered people to take a role and being involved in the mentorship and growth of our audience. And we'll continue to do that. If in case you were wondering, more of that is coming, not less of that. Because, for us, we feel like it's our job to assemble an amazing team of talent and put them in positions to be successful. And I think as time goes on, that's something you'll see more and more is our team shining, because that's ultimately the biggest compliment you can have. Like, when you hear about the coaching department and all those things and how well they're doing, it makes you feel so good about the team you have. And naturally, that's a reflection of yourself. But I think that's so much more gratifying than hearing about how well I did with a specific client or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to us being really intentional about the philosophy and training that in others and encouraging them to take it and run with it, and not making it so doctor dependent, not so dependent on Dr. George here to experiment with stuff with his practices and then share it to you or be the one doing the coaching. Or, we have spent the time to create the back end stuff so this can be trained to others and they can now present it to the audience. And thus we are available to reach more people because there's more of us on our side.
And I think it's funny, Matt, this was your first experience, and we've talked about this before, but this is your first experience, like the process of building a coaching department was really your first experience creating infrastructure. It's such a vague term, but it's a brutal process, isn't it?
It's brutal. It's a lot of risk involved. It's a lot of you don't see the actual award until months later. I'm more inclined to be inundated with demand and then, okay, let's scramble, figure it out. But yeah, it's been wonderful that I've seen it work a couple times already, that when we get to do it now and more in the future, I'm like, oh, this is just like a normal thing we do as a company. We get the infrastructure, we get the people in places all trained up, got the offerings, and now, okay, let's open to the audience. And when the floodgates happen, the experience for the buyer is much smoother and better, and they feel like they got more than they paid for.
And this is something that companies don't always do, because when you do that, what happens is you take it's like you are burning cash for a period of time to build, and you're paying people. You're paying people to come in place to, like, for example, let's talk about our coaching department, right? We hired Suzanne in January and she did not see a single client until June. We started recruiting her in November.
Yeah.
So there was a 3-month recruiting planning period with Suzanne. Then there was a start date in January. Then there was,
creating the coaching department, all the whole offering.
Then there was, her starting to see some select clients to test the concept. Then it was her now investing in training coaches. Now we're in present today where we have a, fully operational functioning coaching department. But that's a lot of money and time where you're also not getting any revenue, where you're investing in the growth of the company. And so this is something that I think one of our biggest fears as a company is under delivering on products, because our reputation in this industry is everything. And so whenever we release something, we try to be very cognizant of that. And we try to make sure that we've spent enough time. And, I think it's very tempting, when you have I could monetize this and just do it. But the reality is that's not the way you build a sustainable company long-term. That's a way you make money short-term, which we have no interest in.
Yeah. And in every department and every offering we have, there is a lot of checks and balances that happen behind the scenes. There's Suzanne, interacting with the coaching department. There's me interacting with our mastermind leadership team, that we're constantly, encouraging feedback and changing things and making sure, we earn that money every month. Because I don't ever want that feeling like I'm not delivering for someone who's investing money in us. That would be just the worst. That would keep me up at night. And yeah. I am a lights out sleeper, head on the pillow, see you later. So that's my biggest strength in my whole life. I'm not getting rid of that.
I was just sitting down to record some of my experiences with dentist advisors to share with you when I got a call from a good friend of mine who has a ton of financial questions and is uncertain about the future, has some money. He invested it at a time when the market was uncertain and saw some returns. But now he's uncertain of what he should do with that money in order to protect it moving forward and continue to grow it. So I told him, we've been talking about dentist advisors for a long time and he knows and trusts them. It's this is the perfect time to engage in a full relationship with dentist advisors. When the markets are up and down, when you don't know what to do with your money, This is when you need a financial advisor so that you can stop worrying and start living the life that you want to live right now. So do what I did this week, which was have my first call with dentist advisors. Now, not only do I have a plan for myself, but I have a team who's going to help me evaluate the key areas of my financial health every month and help me build and adjust my plan as circumstances change. So if you're ready to have a custom plan built for you and direct access to an advisor in these uncertain times, go to dentistadvisors.com and click the book free consultation button to sign up for a call. Once again, go to dentistadvisors.com and click the book a free consultation link today.
So let's talk about what we have coming up next year. So
Let's do it.
where do you want to start, Matt?
How much of the pre-owner services are you willing to get into, or do you want to save that for a later date?
Like buyer's rep stuff?
Yeah.
I'll talk about it now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have so Suzanne is a Swiss Army knife. She liked it when I used that term to describe her. That is very much how I would describe
It's a very flattering term, and it's very accurate.
Well, let's think about her career, right? Like she started as a dental assistant, and she was an office manager. Then she got poached by, Mercer Advisors. Imtiaz Manji is the guy that, the Spear guy that is a guy at Spear, but first he had Mercer Advisors, and they grew that together. So they went from like small consulting company to 47 in-office consultants traveling all around the country, and Suzanne is in charge of that entire team. So all of that experience that she gained, and then she was one of the lead strategists in the practice management space at Patterson, and then she goes and starts her own consulting company, and where she does a lot of due diligence locally and works with pre-owners and now she's with us as our director of coaching. And so, I mean, you think about the number of tools she has in her tool belt. For us, she was a very great hire early on because she was able to do due diligence because of her vast experience helping pre-owners. But at the same time, our coaching department's growing very quickly, and she's unable to keep up with the demand of due diligence and pre-owner services that we have to do.
Because this is the biggest demand we have is for this
due diligence, yes.
Because we're reaching pre-owners more than anyone else.
And so, what we've realized is that we need to bring on another person to have that be. And I think the one thing that we commonly get is we'll have dentists reach out to us. And if you've reached out to me and you've said, hey, long message, I'm looking at practice 1, here is some information. I'm looking at practice 2, here is some information, and then what do you think? ? I can almost guarantee I did not respond.
But they need that assistance. I was in that shoes.
Yes,
I was the one emailing. Like it's really important that they get help.
I emailed people back in the day, and so we need a position that is full-time dedicated to responding to those types of inquiries and helping people in that period, because it is very confusing, and we need to help buyers. But the problem is, no one in our company at the moment has the time to dedicate to this portion of our audience that they deserve, and so we're bringing on somebody who will take on that role for our company, because it's going to be very needed as we continue to, grow in different areas. The pre-owners, the class of 2020 is our biggest graduating class right now. We kind of monitor, I think 18 was a big class for us. So 18 was like the first time that we had like a large number of graduates from the same class listen to us in our audience. 20 is another big jump. And so as the 18 to 19 to 20 grads start getting into ownership, there's going to be even more due diligence demand coming up, and we have to stay ahead of that. And so we're growing with, we're going to get a buyer's rep, and we're going to start offering some really cool services there with both insurance credentialing, buyer's reps, and, bundling it in with some coaching and all that stuff. So
and HR packages and
HR packages. Go ahead.
I think a lot of people kind of take advantage of dentists who are about to buy a practice, just by overcharging, under delivering is rampant in that, I have a practice, now I need help phase. Yeah. I won't name the professions who do it, but I think you guys can figure it out. And we wanted to create a full service offering where you don't need those legal people. Right. Yeah. Not doing legal. Where you don't need those others, and you can just be, taken care of by one person who walks you through the whole process.
Yeah, and then hands off to our coaching department, where then they help you grow the practice, right? That's the transition, is you buy the right practice that can grow, and then you get the coaching department to grow that practice. And so having the buyer's rep be on board with the practice management philosophy so they can screen the practice for growth opportunities that will then be easy to grow for the coaching department are two very important things. And so we need those two people to be able to talk to each other and understand, and that's why they need to be both on our side. And so that's a position we're very, very excited about. And, it's another thing, right? Building infrastructure. We're taking on costs to offer these services so that when we roll them out, we're ready and we're able to deliver. And so this is kind of always the way we'll do things.
So this is coming out on Christmas. Maybe we have found this person. We are actively looking as of December 3rd. So hopefully we have found this person by the time you're listening. It will be no secret who this person is when we do have them. They will be on the show. I'm sure they'll be on TPO. So please look out for when that is available for everyone.
I think I've already met them. We'll see.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so you guys will find out, and we'll introduce this individual, our buyer's rep, in-house buyer's rep, when the time comes. But again, this is something we're really excited about. Again, because I apologize if any of you sent me a long message and I didn't respond. Like I would say I get a couple a week.
And none of you are wrong for sending that message. Let's be clear.
And I'm probably rude for just ignoring it. But yeah,
we just want to have a more sustainable outlet for you because those questions are very valid.
Exactly. So anyway, we're moving on from the buyer's rep. And I think the other thing coming up next year is we have a live event.
Yeah, let's go into that.
And I hope this doesn't sound like an infomercial. Like you don't have to listen, but I think for us, we're just kind of outlining, what we're doing next year, and what some coming attractions, to use some good terminology.
I think we're all starved for live events. I am particularly starved for concerts and even like dental CE. Like, give me something.
So,
right?
Yes,
Are you with me?
I'm with you. So okay. I believe. Should I even say dates or not yet?
You certainly can.
Okay. July 8th through July 11th in Minneapolis, St. Paul, downtown Minneapolis at the Marquette Hotel, we are doing analytics-based practice management.
Wow.
Woo-hoo! All right. What is analytics-based practice management? So this is, and I'm going to, Matt, can I use an industry competitor's equivalent to compare it or no?
Sure.
Okay. So when I think of Breakaway, I think of their business masters, and I think of it's a 2-day course where they completely outline their practice management philosophy. And I've been to that, and I currently put that in the class of the best practice management CE in dentistry at the moment. I say at the moment. Because on July 8th, I will no longer be able to say that. Because I'm doing analytics-based practice management, which is our 2-day course outlining our entire practice management philosophy. And you know exactly which course I'm looking at when I'm building it. And, I truly feel this is going to be, Matt, you've heard it. I've given it twice now. I think the content, so we talk a lot about analytics-based practice management. We talk a lot about the growth that we are able to obtain in practices. The thing we don't have time to talk about is how, because I don't have 16 hours in one sitting where somebody can focus and I can show visuals and all this stuff to explain the way we do things, because our philosophy is really cool and unique. And so for 2 days, so we have the first day is mastermind only. So for mastermind and coaching clients, we're doing a full day event for them. That's not analytics and practice management course. We have another day planned for them. It's going to be a cool day, really interactive with our mastermind and coaching clients. And if you're part of the mastermind and coaching, that's at no charge to you. And then, when we go to the 2-day course after that, was it Friday, Saturday, Matt?
Yes.
Friday, Saturday. That's the 2-day, 16-hour analytics-based practice management, our flagship practice management course we're giving for the first time. And when we say we, I mean I.
So George is selling you the meat here. Now I, as the fun guy here, I'm going to tell you the sizzle. You like that one? I just thought of it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Okay, good. So I like when things are fun. So this is going to be a very fun event. Like, you're going to leave with some swag. We're going to have, a lot of great food, open bar. It's going to be a really enjoyable event. Richard and I are going to be emceeing. We're going to be cracking jokes at George's expense, I'm sure. we really want to kind of have it like that festive atmosphere. We're going to be talking about a lot of like numbers and heavy stuff. That's all really important. But the rest of it, we want to have be really enjoyable because we love interacting with our audience in person. It's something we've both really missed this year. I've never really gotten to fully experience it just based on the time I came on and then everything happened in 2020. So it's going to be really good.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We're going to be in, and the hotel's in this cool downtown area. So it's our goal to, yes, I mean, I'm going into it and everyone else is going to have a great time. I am going to kill it. Like, I'm sorry, but this is for me. I don't think of the things I have going on, most likely the one I'm most excited about is the opportunity for 2 days to outline our philosophy. Like, and so much of it is my brainchild. And like, it's so cool to just be able to be the guy to on stage explain it. And it's hard to understand how innovative and insane it is until you hear it for 2 days. And I mean, Matt, you've listened to it? You've listened to the recordings that I've had of the course. So what are your initial impressions?
I think in a lot of industries, this analytics is really taking over. Like and especially sports. Like I'm big into golf, and golf analytics has only recently like really taken over golf, and it's actually like the whole shots gained. I won't get into the specific, but like the shots gained method and all of these things, and really bringing it into dentistry and pointing to specific numbers and specific knobs to turn based on how a dashboard looks and how to read it. And, given George's like willingness to like actually experience this in his own practice for the last couple of years, so we can see results from it and all our clients, like it's really inspiring and provides a lot of clarity on how to run a dental practice, which I think people have this viewpoint that it's something confusing and it's not easy to understand. So this really boils it down to the important stuff, and it's incredible. Yeah.
So, and the cool thing is, for us, I think I would argue that our philosophy takes analytics further than anyone else ever has in dentistry. And so that's the thing that we call analytics-based practice management. Sure, people look at reappointment rates and they look at case acceptance and they look at these analytics, quote unquote. But who uses analytics to inform how you run a practice? How many openings to have, how fast to reappoint, when to open hygiene, how to grow to a specific size in a short period of time. All of those things are where we feel our philosophy shines. And for 2 days, you'll see why. So
and I also want to touch on something, because like I know when I listen to shared practices back in the day, you take notes in different places over things in different episodes. So you have a lot of good information, but it's all kind of jumbled, right?
yes.
This boils it down into, a binder you leave with to 2 days of sitting in it all day. And like you get the whole scoop, and that's
Well, wasn't it like
priceless.
2 weeks ago I had the Practice Underwater guest on that like copied part of our philosophy but not the whole thing, and like was doing it totally wrong. He's like, I listened to you on Practice Underwater and you said open up more hygiene, so I did. I'm like, yeah, but your retention sucks, so like that doesn't work then. And
Right.
it's like, to get the entire recipe is different than to get the
Yeah, and like some of the topics you go into in the seminar, we've touched on in Practice Underwater here and there, maybe like parts of them. But like, yeah, to get that whole thing, it's just a different experience.
Yeah. And I remember, my first experience sitting in Breakaway was like, I read every single post Scott had ever posted on Dentaltown before I went. And I said, whoa, it's like I knew the bits and pieces, but to see them strung together was this magical experience. And the thing I left with was I felt like anything was possible. And that's the thing that, you hear about the growth that we experience in practices, and you might not think it's possible. Like doubling a practice in 9 to 12 months for us, like, yes. But like that might sound unbelievable. But then when you hear how, you're like, oh, I get it. I feel like I can do it too. And I think that's the experience that we're going after. Whether or not I get it, remains to be seen. There'll be a survey at the end of the seminar where I'll find that out. That'll be in July. So until then, I'm fairly confident that we can pull it off. So really excited about the event.
It's really good. My last point on it is that I also went to Breakaway Business Masters, loved it. But he covers everything in a practice. Marketing, patient experience, how much to pay hygienic, everything you can imagine is covered. So it's very, you feel very inundated with stuff. And you have like 20 things you want to do with the practice. This is
the opposite.
Yeah, it's more of a deep dive into analytics.
Yes.
two days on analytics. And
So
go ahead.
I would say it's, I'm so much less interested in what you are doing tangibly, like how, like I would call Breakaway very how, right? And I don't want to keep talking about Breakaway, like it's another company, but at the same time, like if I go to a seminar and they're giving me a bunch of systems on how to do specific things in my practice, I will do those hows. I have no desire to change how things are done in any practice without first changing the dentist's glasses of which they see their practice. And so this is 2 days so that you learn to think about your practice the way analytics-based thought should be. So what analytics have taught us about how to think about our practice is what you're learning for 2 days. So you'll leave and you'll never be able to see your practice the same ever again. That's the goal.
That was nice.
It's dramatic.
Yeah.
And then I will say that this course is likely one that I will not give more than 5 times. Yeah. So I would say 3 is kind of the number I'm thinking. I might give it 3 times. I'd say once now, once about a year from July, and then one. Actually, that might be the center. So maybe I would say 3 times I'm most likely going to give this in person. And then at that point, Suzanne will probably carry on the legacy of analytics-based practice management. So whether it's this time or one of the other 2 times, I am not promising to be the
solo dentist of the dental analytics seminar.
Yeah, no, this isn't going to be a go see George for 2 days, 4 times a year thing. Like that's not happening. I've given the course twice already, and every single time it's so much fun. I love the content, but at the end of the 2 days of lecturing, I'm like done. And I'm giving it one more time in coach training when we do another batch of coach training. And then the seminar is going to that'll be my 4th time doing this, presenting it. And then, if I do so then by the time I've presented it publicly 3 times, it'll be like 8 or 9 times I've done this. So I really have I'm not going to have a ton of interest in keep doing the same 2-day course that many times. So, I just want to say that I want to be upfront about that because I want to make sure that I'm not setting the expectation that I'm going to be doing this 5 times a year for the rest of my career.
Roger.
Okay. So do we have anything else in 2021 that we feel like we should discuss? I don't think so.
No, we've touched on the headquarters coming out 2022, and we're launching our online academy, which is part of our mastermind program. So if you are a student in the mastermind or a pre-owner in the mastermind, you have access to what's called the academy, which is online resource center that are videos we are creating currently. We'll have those available for January. But no, that's all I had on my master list.
Okay. And I do want to talk about a little bit about, so if you see now the parts of our company that are stable, so like the Matt and my roles on the day-to-day and Richard's role, I think Richard is very involved in our audience growth is what we call it, and so the podcast production that releases 4 episodes per week, our advances in Instagram.
I guess you could call it that.
Yeah. And so we are not naturally social media people. And so having one person in our company that's in charge of that part of our arm is probably a good idea. And that's Richard. Matt and I are much more in charge of, things that we just talked about. And, Matt, I think it's been, I've seen a huge role and increase in his ability to handle things, both with him taking a step back in his practice where, now coaching department, mastermind, and academy is all under his oversight. And I'm totally removed from the day-to-day of all 3 of those things. Like we said, those are stable things that usually when you have stability, you don't want George. And so the buyer's rep right now is where I'm involved. And so again, that's it's funny. I just actually made that connection last episode was that
the stability thing.
Yeah. Probably a healthy observation.
Yeah, it's good. And it points to you where you should spend your time, the things that need instability, things that need to be growing and set up and deals need to be made. And
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. Matt sends me to go do things. He's like, you need to close this deal. Go.
I call George my hired gun.
How long have you been calling me that?
I only thought of it a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Because it's not, those conversations are not for me. Staff coming to me asking for a raise is one that that's not good for me. That's not good. I get walked over.
Yeah, no. Whenever we're in the growing edge of a part of our company and we need to hash out, recruiting talent or, negotiating compensations and all that stuff, that's typically an area where I'm pretty involved. So yeah, but I think the one thing that I was worried about is shared practice ever going to be a place that I could see myself staying long term because of how much I like new things and I need to keep moving and changing. And to you and Richard's credit, you guys have understood that about me and have put me in a situation where I can succeed, where I'm not bogged down by day-to-day operations that are not moving and changing and needing growth, and putting me in situations where that's what it needs. So I'm very thankful to be in a place where I have that.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Any other sneak peeking for 2021 Practice Underwater? Anything that's coming up?
I think we're going to have a couple of new voices on Practice Underwater.
That's
probably
what I was trying to insinuate. Yeah. So we'll talk about that, and we'll kind of close the episode with this. So Matt and I started the segment of Practice Underwater in August of 2019. We have been doing it now for 16 months. And, when we were coaching primarily, it made sense that we would do Practice Underwater. But at this time, we have a coaching department of coaches. And so upcoming this year will be the handing off of Practice Underwater to our coaching department to maintain it long term. Our involvement in the intro outros is to be determined. I think either way, we'll see. But again, I think this is in line with our philosophy of training and hiring and assembling very talented people and then putting them at the forefront to shine. And so I think Tyler Tolbert is a great example of this, where, we trusted a fourth-year dental student at the time, or was he third year at the time when we put him on air?
I think he's third year, yeah.
The third-year dental student. And we put him on to lead our entire pre-ownership segment. And I mean, if you guys don't see the star that Tyler is yet, you're late to the party.
Mm-hmm.
He's dynamite. And
yeah, you missed the stock there.
It's risen. And Suzanne, our director of coaching, we haven't heard a lot of on air. She's every bit as impressive as so many people in our company. And so it's always our mission to create and assemble these really talented people and empower them and put them on air and let you guys learn from them. And so that's coming in Practice Underwater 2021 at some point. Likely earlier in the year, but we'll see, depending on the coaching department's availability and how things go over there, how much time they have. But yeah, this is the closing of the chapter of Matt and George doing interviews is coming up. Whether those specific dates are, we'll see. But that's something that we all have to look forward to.
Yeah, and we'll always be voices on the Share Practice podcast, in whether that be Richard's show, coming on Tyler's show, popping in Practice Underwater, intro outros, whatever. However it looks, we're not going away from talking to you all because we love doing it. So we just felt that, as George alluded to, if the coaching department is doing all the coaching now, why not have them on air so our audience can hear who they may be working with in the future and learn more about them and see their style and hopefully see them the way we do is just incredibly impressive and just totally competent and amazing people.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that we're so excited to showcase is our coaches. So something to look forward to in 2021. And I hope you guys enjoyed this year, 2020. Merry Christmas to you all, and to all a good night. You gotta admit that was good, right?
That was pretty good. Yeah, it was fine. No, but let's close the book on 2020.
Yeah,
it's in the past, man. It's that stuff's over. We are moving on and upwards.
On and up. 2020
dentistry isn't going anywhere. The golden age isn't gone.
I thought the golden age is done.
Yeah, it was done. It's now back.
Oh, okay.
I have declared it back. 2021. It's the first of the golden age years.
A new Matt. 2021. All right. We'll see you guys, and we're looking forward to the next year at the World of Shared Practices.